from their starting top laner, and that's what they get from Akon.
Yeah, so I wonder where the bans are going to go today. LGD versus M3, game 1 begins now. LGD over on the blue side, M3 on the red. Xerath the first ban there for LGD. Corki soon to follow, and M3 actually first ban the Rek'Sai, so pretty standard stuff with the Corki ban really standing out to me.
But you might find the Xerath ban surprising just because there's been so many prominent Xeraths, for example, Barker in the previous game playing that champion, but Dade's Xerath 4-2 has a very good KDA, about a 4 KDA compared to his normal season 2.2 KDA. It's been a very strong champion for him, and with Azir and Xerath out of the pool, that's 16 games of practice gone completely out the well with just one ban, now that Azir not really seeing much play on patch 5.4.
Yeah, M3 going to ban out Wayless's Ahri as well. Ahri has been so strong in the last few patches, and even though she was toned down a bit in 5.4, still very good, and there are so many good Chinese and Korean Ahri players, it seems like. So respect going to be given there, and LGD last ban Morgana, interestingly enough.
Yeah, Morgana's a very interesting ban, targeted at Love CD, you have to think. Just a bit of a respect support ban. Of course, Morgana, a very flexible champion, but we haven't seen M3 pull it out in multiple lanes. Maybe it's a scouting report we don't know about, but all we know is that Morgana hits the ban list. I like your respect of Ahri. When you think of Chinese League of Legends players, you think of the likes of Rookie, the likes of Cool, also strong in that champion. Wayless deserves to be uttered in the same conversation because he's also a wonderful Ahri player, even with the small nerfs. Still such a safe, blind pick mid laner. Only a few matchups she has a little bit of trouble navigating and can always get through those. So it's banned away, and the final ban is Vi.
That was exactly... I'm not actually that surprised, because that's what I thought the Morgana ban was for. TBQ has played so much Vi. He's one of the few players still left playing it. She's still quite strong. M3 realizing with the Morgana ban, Vi's open, so they ban it.
That's a very smart ban. I don't know if we would have seen a Vi first pick, but 2BQ, as you mentioned, has been playing that champion. Vi definitely fallen away in terms of being competitive picks. Been banned and first picked early, and look who's available. He might have struggled on it yesterday, but Akon, one of the oldest and most famous Rumble players in the world, I think you have to snap it up when it's available, even over the Cannon, which has shown good results. But it's Rumble. It's Akon's Rumble.
Flashes Poppy for a second there, but should be taking Rumble into this matchup and does indeed pick it up for himself. A lot of players in the LPL started playing Rumble in the early weeks. There were so many Rumble players, it looks like, but really at the end of the day, seems like it's just Akon left consistently playing.
Exactly. It's not a Rumble player, it's the Rumble player when we're talking about Akon from LGD, formerly of GSG, and of course Samsung Blue, a wonderful Rumble player. Locked in. There's still a lot of competitive matchups. You know, Hecarim still could be a consideration for Lupa, even though he didn't find success in the champion yesterday. Kallista's going to be the pickup with Morgana and Vi banned. The best support with Kallista against the Vi, and the hardest to initiate. Candy's Kallista has been a thing to behold. In fact, this has been the lane matchup they've been running. So the Kallista Thresh has been the completed lane matchup that we remember terrorizing Wei in the Starhorn Royal Club versus M3 matchup. And they get that completed bottom lane, which is definitely been the strongest performing bottom lane for M3.
Yeah, I mean, Candy's other champion is Corki, which was intelligently banned out by LGD, so makes sense to pick up Kallista Thresh here. So a good, strong bottom lane, like you mentioned, something that M3 have been playing quite a bit of recently, and LGD have a couple more choices to make. For me, the big question is definitely on the jungle. What's TBQ's second jungle? Because Vi is absolutely his first.
I mean, Rumble Jarvan has wonderful synergy. TBQ, he's played some Jarvan games, not necessarily been one of his best or worst champions. He's considering also the Rengar for the pick potential. You don't see a lot of synergy between the picks we've got so far. You know, we definitely don't see the pick support or the pick top laner to complement the Rengar, but we've already seen that Rengar can overtake a game with aggression in the mid game. But no, they go for the more tried and true Jarvan. I do like the Jarvan. It's reliable. You know exactly what the interaction will be between Rumble and Jarvan.
Yeah, I like that pick a lot. Just a little, makes a little more sense in the comp, like you mentioned. Janna there for PYL as well. One of his flagship champions. So a good pick up there. Complete the top jungle combo, like you mentioned. And M3 can have a look at some other picks. For me, we talked about Lupa. I thought about Isna. Wouldn't be surprised to see that at all here, but still plenty of good champions open.
And the big question to ask is, are we going to see Dade try and blind pick LeBlanc again? He actually had a very good game on LeBlanc in the previous series. They're mulling a couple of interesting picks. We'll wait and see before they're locked in. The LeBlanc bind picks have been pretty common in Week 8. There are champions that work against it, but no, they're going to go very tanky. It is going to be Lupa's Hecarim.
Jeez, Imp. Just going in with the Vayne.
Wow.
Yeah, he wants the Vayne. I mean, Hecarim Rengar's great for M3. Lots of pick potential, good initiation, but Imp is on a mission today.
And this would not surprise me. Wayless bringing out the AP Cho'Gath, just because, again, it's such an unknown pick. I don't know how much practice Dade will have against this champion. We don't know what's in the water in China, but it's definitely been AP Cho'Gath all throughout the weekend. Ninja introduced it. Didn't get a win, but looked pretty good on it a few weeks ago. But an explosion of picks in 5.4.
Yeah, and Wayless has been leading the charge on AP mid Cho'Gath, and
what's
he'll pick it up.
Dade going to pick? Pastry time. That's the question, because LeBlanc does not have a favorable matchup against Cho'Gath.
In fact, no. We saw Wayless continually pick it into that champion as part of the reason he wanted to play it. So Dade, not too many options available here. Just kind of looking through. Be interesting to see what he wants to go. His Z is not banned, by the way. It was actually banned yesterday, I believe. So there are some champions there. But I'm really curious about Imp's Vayne, though. He insta-locked that champion.
And Vayne versus Kalista. No one has dared opt into this matchup. I don't believe even Uzi has opted into the Vayne versus Kalista matchup. Last few seconds, what does Dade have to show us on 5.4? It's not going to be exciting. Yeah, he's going to do it.
No, oh my god, he's actually going to... Never mind. He goes full Dade today. Rise in the mid lane against AP Cho'Gath. Welcome to the LPL.
I mouthed a wow, Pastry time. They couldn't decide at the last second. He does bring something new, but this is crazy. Mid lane Rise coming out. He's going to try and make this a farm lane. I can understand that. Just hanging back, trying to power up with the tier Catalyst build. But so risky. We haven't seen Rise in the top lane, let alone the mid lane, in so long. Ever since the World Championships, in fact. And this was a split-second, last-second call, and it's going to be Dade's Rise in the mid. Not even both Summoner Spells. It's actually going to be Flash Ignite the Summoner's taken. A very aggressive Summoner Spells. Again, we're going to go through some of the matchups. The mid lane matchup is crazy to me, Cho'Gath versus Rise. But in the top, Akon's got the Rumble.
Yeah, it makes sense for Akon. Looper going to go back to Hecarim. I think this is his 4th time in a row playing that champion in the top side. TBQ here on Jarvan against the Rengar, actually, which is sort of an interesting pick. This is the matchup, though, that we've started to see. Wayless and Dade are butt heads already in the LPL, and they're going to start things off with a very curious matchup. That's the other one we want to check out as well. Imp Kalista sounds good for Imp for Vayne in theory. Imp, of course, playing Vayne, but we haven't seen it in practice yet. Let's see.
Yeah, I mean, it's a big question, and we're going to start with a pause, I believe.
Just kind of hanging out here. As, yeah, everything's going pretty well. This is a great last game to kick off our last best of 2.
It's a massive game, Pastry time. So exciting in the mid lane. You have to worry, though. It's not just the AP Cho'Gath we're talking about. It's Cho'Gath Jarvan. So much gank pressure for just a Rise.
And let's see what happens. We're getting onto the Rift. And welcome onto the Rift here for our last best of 2 of the evening. LGD versus M3. There are some crazy signature champions in this one, so if you're a fan of some old school Korean powerhouses, welcome to Dade's Rise and Imp's Vayne.
But you have to worry, though, Pastry time. Let's think back to Season 3 Worlds, a time Dade doesn't like talking about, understandably. The Rise picks, the Rise overreaches, that was what was leveled against M3 at the time, Samsung White. And criticism of Dade that he would play Rise even though the patches didn't necessarily suit the champion. It kind of feels the same way in 5.4, I have to say. It's a bit of an overreach to go for such a risky champion in the mid lane against so much jungle pressure. Imagine just, at level 2, the Rupture coming through, the EQ combination, Rise very squishy in the early levels, you can see. Only about 500, 600 health. I don't know if he can navigate this laning phase, but there is theoretically safe far from him under the turret. Anywhere overextended, though, going to be gank city.
And I'm worried too, because we've seen that Wayless is not afraid to get in, hit you with a CC, and let's jump in and feast you with a flash. So Wayless has definitely played a lot of his mid lanes with AP Cho, surprisingly aggressively. But as I said, the other matchup here has to be Candy versus Imp. We could probably highlight it going in, but this matchup in particular, Vayne versus Kalista.
Yeah, 2 hyper carries, one of them fiercely melee focused, one of them that buys the Hurricane and looks for the Ren set. Of course, the flexibility for Candy to take a different build. We have seen single target builds have some success in the LPL. For Kalista, they're going to actually start at the Grump, so it's going to be some extra experience in coming into lane. The lane swap is on, not surprising. It's actually opted into for Imp. I don't think Vaynes want to face Kalista in a 1v1 lane. Maybe after the Bilge Wars is completed, enough sustain to be able to opt into a 2v2, stop the Dragon pressure. But the freeze is on, and very standard lanes, despite the 2v1.
I mean, I'm not completely convinced that the 1v1 matchup is not something you want, but you definitely don't want to take Vayne Janna, one of the most reactive, passive bottom lanes in the game, against Thresh and Candy, especially these 2.
That's fair. You always have to complete the matchups, talk about the supports. Not a lot of lane pressure from Imp and PYL on the Vayne Janna, and definitely plenty of kill pressure when you're talking about Love CD on a champion like Thresh, a very practiced bottom lane for M3.
And LGD are one of the teams that continually swap Imp into 1v0s or 1v1 matchups. This actually makes a lot of sense that he give him a champion that is maybe rewarded by more farm. And the other nice thing is that it frees up PYL to roam.
And that's a great thing because, again, it's worth noting that the same is true for M3. We've got Rengar on the team, so we've already mentioned a significant jungle skirmish advantage for Jarvan over Rengar in the early game. But if it's Rengar Thresh, there's a lot of potential for 3v3 skirmishing coming through from those champions. So maybe that will relieve some pressure for Dade in the mid game. But Dade has to play so careful. And you know that Wayless feels almost a bit disrespected, bringing out Ryze, a champion that's not really considered a viable mid lane pickup against the Cho'Gath. As we notice the jungle follow, it continues.
Yeah, Acorn is on some sort of journey, though, on the top side of the map. Condi and Lupa sticking together, even going to ward the lane just to see if anyone sneaks by. But we'll take the Krugs away here from LGD. Acorn, I think, is actually jungling.
I mean, Acorn, he's actually started the Cloth Armor 5 potion, so there's a lot of early regen. I mean, of course, you're so flexible with starts with Rumble. If you're going to start in lane, maybe the Doran Shield just to navigate lane. In this case, as you mentioned, doing a lot of jungling, quite slow, but going to pick up the experience nonetheless.
Yeah, helping a little bit out there for TBQ. We might even transfer us into a fast push as well. We got 2 in the top lane already with that wave crashing in, but Acorn and TBQ will stick together for now.
And with the reinforcements on turrets, definitely the fast push is just, you know, a speedy push. Definitely not that quick, but the result is going to be M3 going to be looking for the first dragon, as Dade already has multiple threats to worry about in the mid lane.
This is a crazy accelerated game. Dade, though, does get screamed at. Will get silenced briefly. M3 is still juggling this dragon. They should be able to pick it up first, but Candy has done so much damage to the tower on the bottom side. Imp's been working on the top as well. First dragon going to go down at 4.5 minutes here, and this game is out of control already.
Yeah, there was 4 members to juggle aggro, I believe 3, because we still saw Candy in the bottom lane, returns to the bottom lane. Minion waves are now equalized. Doesn't give a lot of stats early to Dade. He's just kind of happily farming in the lane. To be honest, if he goes unpunished, if he doesn't receive any ganks or turret dives, it's still a ticking time bomb. You have to remember that all the nerfs were kind of targeted around the safe laning phase of Ryze, specifically in the top lane as a ranged champion who is so good at bossing around melee champions. It's range versus melee in the mid lane. A short lane so Dade is able to have flash as a good safety tool. And in the late game, still as strong as ever.
Yeah, I mean, you can see Dade, though, actually just ate a W there and took quite a lot of damage from a Rupture there as well. Starting with a Sapphire Crystal is going to accelerate his early damage and mana items, but he's real squishy here, and he has to be careful.
I mean, the other reason why we don't see a lot of Ryze is similar to the reason we don't see a lot of Orianna. They're one-item power spikes, 2-item power spikes. In general, the ramp-up time for Ryze is immense, and games are getting shorter and shorter. Fighting for the early dragons is more and more important. So we just don't see a lot of Ryze. But, you know, 28 minutes, we're talking about a fully stat Rod of Ages and working towards a Seraph's Embrace. Ryze is still going to be very, very teamfight ready. And the front line for M3 will be massively tanky. Hecarim, Rengar, and a tanky Ryze. That's a lot for Imp as a single-target champion to deal with.
Yeah, I actually like the front lines for both. We saw this a little bit when Wayless was playing Cho'Gath in the last LGD games, but they seem to use it to protect a carry surprisingly well.
Absolutely. I mean, Cho'Gath has so much damn health, you have to remember. He gets so much free stats from his ultimate that he's able to do that, as we do see some fighting in the jungle.
Yeah, actually a hook there going to land a flay back there as well. TBQ got ignited, but he'll actually be okay. A good ward there for M3 will get cleared out by the pink that J4 has, and Condi continuing to aggressively invade here.
LovCD's not stopping either, trying to get extra brushes. The second skirmish comes through onto LovCD. Dade's trying to react to it. Not going to be able to do that too easy. In fact, there comes the aggression.
Yeah, Wayless going to feast him as well. Lantern might save him, but he can't click it, and first blood goes to Wayless. LovCD force advantage, but TBQ joins in. Lupus here as well. PYL splashed over. The knockups come in. Wayless chasing for another knockup there. LovCD could be in trouble. His still damage going to come through there. They will complete a good playback. Might save him. LovCD actually gets the kill there onto TBQ. PYL going a little too deep. Lupa might turn it around. Wayless has no mana as well, and Lupa has a Lantern out, but he's going deep. He wants the last kill. PYL in trouble, goes down as well. Now LovCD will join in onto Wayless. Imp finally makes it to the top side, but M3 win the trade.
Imp at no point looked to rotate towards the fight, and despite it being comically long, unbelievably M3 come out in the advantage. Just nothing that Wayless could do as he was falling down in terms of health and mana. Dade tried to react after LovCD for the second time, was caught in the enemy jungle. Died instantly. Remember, he only had a Sapphire Crystal, no combat stats whatsoever, and died instantly. The burst coming through from Wayless. Have to respect that. Cho'Gath has bought the tier. The turret finally falls in top, but Dade can't be doing too much reacting. We can't see too many aggressive invades when Dade just wants to be farming up that tier, farming up the catalyst, and just getting going for the 18 to 28 minute phase, not the 7-minute jungle invades.
Yeah, no, not so good here as Condi stalking PYL as well. Love City also an intro hook, but POEL is going to back away to the mid side. Dade's good news, I guess, is that he's actually well on the way to his early mana items. Tier is done and Catalyst is almost complete. I mean, Rise, like you mentioned, does need a lot to get going as Imp here in the top side. Going to get 3-man ganked. A great bowler and play there. Imp pops his ultimate. He's already been hooked. He will know. Yes, go down as Condi. Flash orders for the kill.
Imp did not respect the 3 members coming through, held his flash for far too long and dies. Everything has gone so much better than expected for M3, who waited to the last possible second to pull the trigger on their team comp, but they've picked up the first dragon despite having the Rengar, navigated Rengar to quads level 6 with a kill advantage, with all the skirmish advantages, despite having a severe skirmish disadvantage as Love CD hits another death sentence onto Wayless. As I said, things going better than expected, and all these skirmishes going in M3's advantages buys more time for Dade to farm in the mid.
Yeah, it's really weird that both teams have chosen a different late game carry. I guess here it's Dade and his Rise. Kalista definitely late game focused, but has a reasonable mid game, especially when she gets her early items up. But Vayne is as well the same sort of thing where you just need to get your farm or get your early blade and transition from there. So both teams have an interesting insurance policy, but right now, like you mentioned, M3 getting the better of the first 10 minutes.
And this is something that's actually not spoken about much anymore because Vayne and Rise have both fallen out of favor. But something to consider, Pastry Time, is the fact that one of the hardest counters to Vayne back when Vayne was popular was Rise. Rise deals so well with champions that have to do damage in 550 or less range, and we're talking about Vayne in that particular situation, and he's reliable. He has the instant cast on the snare. He builds Frozen Heart and tankiness in general, and he's able to deal with Vayne very, very well. So in terms of that particular interaction, would have been surprised by the Vayne pick, but the surprise Rise pick actually does work in terms of the late game carry matchup we just spoke about.
Yeah, and Dade now has his Catalyst done as well, so continuing to farm up a little bit behind Wayless's Cho'Gath here, but again, nothing too bad. And I guess the nice thing is that Wayless doesn't really have that much effective roam power either on the Cho, so the farm matchup that he wants, unless he gets ganked over and over again, should be okay. Blue Buff going to come through now, so we've actually swapped down Akon, level 6 now with his Haunting Eyes in the top lane, and Imp down the bottom with his Bilgewater.
I mean, as we said, Bilgewater completed. Swapping back into the 2v2 makes a lot of sense. This is actually something that I'm going to level at Candy a second time in a row. He always seems to find himself shopping as an answer to the first lane swapping. In fact, showing up into lanes against a Bilgewater dagger Vayne with no items. He's very late. He's very greedy with his first shot. In this case, buys a completed Hurricane. Looks like he won't be punished too much because, of course, Vayne can't really counter-push the wave too fast. But he needs to be a bit more on point with those shots if he wants to stay competitive in 2v2 skirmishes.
Yeah, but like you mentioned, does have his Hurricane, so the first major item for Kalista, that really transitions and speeds up the next major item, which in this case, probably the Bloodthirster, given the given what we've seen so far in Kalista games. It's funny, we had a couple of weeks where people were building Infinity Edges, but everyone seems to be firmly on the Hurricane
I
train
think when
now.
we're talking about 2-3 engaged tanks that are in your face, absolutely go for the single target build. When we saw STYZ doing it in World Elite versus Vici Gaming, it made so much sense. He was against, I believe it was Scion Jarvan, something like that. Jarvan and another super tank, and he needed to be able to kill that diving in, armor stacking Jarvan. Made sense to go the single target build, but when you see Rumble locked in, there's only going to be at most one tanks, arguably Cho'Gath going to be tanky in terms of health, probably not going to have a big armor and magic resist pool. So it makes sense to go the Ren set build. Going to do that happily. With the lanes as they are, they're going to try a second dragon here, M3, and I'm not sure if LGD want to commit. In fact, we're going to see a commit.
Yeah, Lupa's teleporting in. Condi very low. Love City. Hook will go wide. A great equalizer there, and the knockup at the Fate Skull. Keep them safe. Condi, though, goes down to TBQ. Dade now in trouble as he'll go down to Imp as Vayne has found a way in here. The block does get thrown down there as well, but they'll back off. A 2-for-1 trade there. LGD ahead.
Could you ever ask for a better equalizer than what we saw in that previous fight? That is the one spot in the map you cannot fight against the Rumble. It's hard enough at Dragons, but when you're all going to stand on a choke, Dade losing about half his health from the interaction, it's going to be Dragon to LGD. The answering Dragon comes through. You need to watch yourself around terrain when you're against a Rumble, and Akon's Rumble, it's a wonderful thing to watch.
Yeah, misfired a little bit in the last Rumble game we saw him, but right back on point here with the equalizers this particular game. Imp getting a kill is nice for himself as well. He's actually a bit behind in CS, so going to catch up a bit now as well, but Lupa hanging out here. They want to try and gank this Vayne.
The Rod of Ages timing is going to be very much in Cho'Gath's advantage. The hook goes wide, but the Rod of Ages is the rush coming through from Cho'Gath. He's about 700 gold away at the moment, Dade, from matching the item timing. So it's definitely going to be a 22-minute 10-stack Rod of Ages to what's optimistically going to be a 26-minute Rod of Ages from Dade.
Yeah, and it's just a late here. I mean, like you mentioned, Rise takes so long to get up that being delayed is just a big deal here for the Rise in the mid lane as Imp continues to farm down towards the bottom, working on that blade. Actually has some early Berserker gives. I like that a lot here. Just, you know, giving a bit more dueling power here and a bit more flexibility and mobility. But just in general, a very quiet game. A dragon apiece, a slight lead for LGD, and the tower probably the biggest thing.
Biggest thing for me, though, Patient, it's going to be those late-game team fights. Two hyper carries, Vayne and Callista, going at it in late-game team fights with something we have not seen in competitive play, let alone in the LPL. I believe in the world we haven't seen this matchup in at least the top league, so it's going to be super interesting to track it. As Dade's going aggressive, that's a risky thing to do against the Cho'Gath.
Wayless eats in there. Flashes fall for the last auto. Ignite will finish it off. And Wayless, the assassin Cho'Gath here, as PYL does ulti in there. TBQ going to dive in onto Condi. Imp's there as well. Good amount of damage. And now Looper in trouble. Actually, the Fate's Call knocks 3 up there, but Imp is still chasing. Looper almost going to go down the last bolt. Not enough. A good hook there for Love CD, but that's just going to give Imp another kill.
Yeah, 3 kills come through for LGD. Not sure what Dade was thinking. I know he knew he had reinforcements, but it was never going to do well against a Cho'Gath who's feeds us so much of their health. A 1v1 duel for Candy is quickly going to turn into a very outnumbered duel.
Yeah, 4v1 now is on. Candy gets knocked up and Wayless just destroys him.
Wayless could have left the kill to Vayne, but she has 3 of her own already. Understandable that he'll take it for himself. Completely out-rotated in that engage with M3 after a questionable fight start by Dade.
And the weirdest thing to me has to be the fact that Wayless just seems so reliable on this Cho'Gath. You know, there's a lot of skill shot CC. We talk a lot about him having good follow-up CC, but not necessarily being a reliable engagement tool. But Wayless just seems to be on top of all aspects of this champion.
And without cooldown reduction, you need to hit that rupture. Otherwise, you have no way to close the distance. Thankfully for Wayless, he did. Dade had no answer. Still has a very low health pool, despite the fact that he has a Catalyst, because, of course, Ryze's base stats very low. Belies his excellent scaling. But look, if you're going to opt into a fight early against Cho'Gath, Wayless is perfectly happy to do that.
Yeah, he'll just flash Feast you here as Acorn in the top side, going to get ganked by Looper and Condi. Bowler goes wide, second will hit for the slow, but they're going to move in there. The Fury gets another bowler down Acorn, pops his ulti though. That's a lot of damage onto poor Condi, but he'll get out of the way, gets the kill, and Looper escapes out from under the turret.
Condi could have been a bit more steadfast with using the bowler, used it too early. The red buff tick would have probably been enough to force Acorn to flash. They take a bit of extra damage, but no one falls. A successful gank for Rengar.
Yeah, just the kill there coming through as Dade will continue to clean out CS here. Blasting one is up for him, but he really has a long way to go for that Rod of Ages here. 15 minutes in and still not finished.
I think he has the goal for it now. He's going to back away, but doesn't have a lot of lane controls. In the bottom, we're seeing one of the first duels.
Hey, Imp going to pop his ulti there. Love City going to get Fates called out. Imp chasing, but can't go any further. Couple summoners blown, and Imp with the Blade of the Ruin King now really starting to punish this lane.
You have to admit that this lane is very amusing, because usually in Thresh lanes, you have to focus the AD. If you focus the AD carry, Thresh will lantern him away. Now if you focus the support, they can Fates call away the support. So who do you focus? Maybe both. You split the aggro, you get a jungle gank. Either ways, M3 get away.
Yeah, I mean, Imp is just aggressive here, though. I mean, hasn't quite shopped since the last few kills that he got. Does, of course, have his blade ready to go. 600 gold in the back pocket. Not a massive amount, but at least at this point, which is almost always the case in Vayne games, once she has her blade, she's not really afraid of any single AD carry.
Yeah, it's a 1v1 build, you know, it's a split push build. You'll complement it with the Yomu's Ghostblade just to focus on single target damage, whereas the Hurricane build is for lane control, but mostly for team fights. You know, single target versus team fight build. You don't want to opt into any fights, and Candy has to back away, cede more advantage to LGD that do not want to give this blue buff to Dade.
But it is going to go over to someone here. Looks like Wayless will be the one to collect it, although taking a lot of damage. Maybe TBQ, yep, we'll just smite it away there. Wayless doesn't really need it, perhaps has one of his own already, but Dragon back in a minute 20. Looper working on M3's first turret of the game here. Might be able to get it. Minion Wave does run out, though. Wayless level 11 now on the Cho'Gath, and he does have a blue buff.
But M3 need to regard the first Dragon as a bonus, you have to think. This is against now the double magic penetration coming through from Acorn. You never really want to opt into a fight around the Dragon against a Rumble, but this is Rumble Cho'Gath. There's even set up CC from range for that Equalizer to be layered on top of. There's no items completed on Hecarim, just some intermediate items. So they don't want to be fighting until some big pickups come through. They need to back away and cede some advantages. Look, teams don't have a lot of success when we use that statement because teams have become so good in the LPL especially at just really snowballing mid-game advantages. But right now, Looper is not combat ready.
Yeah, and there are towers falling left, right, and center. So a bit of gold there for Looper, getting the top tower. Bottom tower going to go down to Imp. Wayless already picked up the mid tower there as well. So much mid-game power like you just mentioned here for the LGD side. And Imp, he's not going to get a Ghostblade. He's going for either the Static Shiv or the PD.
You can say that. It's going to be the Zeal, absolutely complete. It's going to be the Static Shiv. No, actually considers Phantom Dance. So it's still a single target build.
It's the imp build.
It's the most damage possible. As you mentioned, it is the imp build. So it's going to be a lot of single target damage. M3, they're going in on Wayless, but he's very, very tanky.
He is, and PYL's here. Good three-man Scream actually coming in for a lot of good damage. Wayless actually just eats poor Condi. He goes down to the face. Still fighting in there, just under half health, and the Equalizer gets everyone else out. Looper now has to run away, but Wayless just destroying people today.
I don't think M3 have a lot of practice against this Cho'Gath. They are not respecting the burst damage coming through. Dade's caught as well. Does have flash up this time. Doesn't fall down, but M3... This is what happens when you have Rise mid. He's just hoping for a long laning phase just to farm up. And LGD, how do they react? They take every advantage possible in the early game.
Yeah, understandably not going to give him that long laning phase here. Scrying up there will spot out Kalista running away. Sentinel there will go down to Imp as another tower falls, I believe, in the bottom lane this time around. Yeah, minions managed to clean that one out. So M3, 2 for 3 now in turrets. LGD, though, on top of the second dragon, and will pick it up.
At least for the next 10 minutes, there's just not much M3 can do about this until they reach 2 tank items on the Hecarim, at least a Seraph's Embrace, but, working towards the Frozen Heart for Rise, and then Kalista also adding a Bloodthirst. So they're just not teamfight ready on all their carries. That's kind of the issue, is that Imp has a 1v1 advantage against Kalista just because of the item builds. It's the natural build paths that Vayne and Kalista take. Dade just has no chance of skirmishing against Cho'Gath. That's just the reality of the situation. Even with flash ups, flashing one skill shot, he'll still lose an extended trade to the Cho'Gath, and Hecarim has no completed items. He just can't fight at the moment.
Yeah, and the thing is, M3 haven't been able to get defensive vision up either. They're sort of scrambling around the map, trying to farm up somewhere, but running out of safe places to farm here in this game, and M3 need to find something, because like you mentioned, LGD is going to keep getting stronger, and M3 desperately need farm.
We talk about their late game advantage. Sure, it's there, especially on champions like Rise, but we're still talking about a very formidable late game carry in Vayne. Cho'Gath still does reliable things in the late game. If he can get to 40% CDR and have that rupture on a 5-second cooldown, does have so much CC to provide to a fight. And Acorn on Rumble, he's already shown with one Equalizer what he can do with this champion. Looks like he's going to be building away from the Leandros towards the Zhonya's, just so he can dive the backline and be a threat consistently in a fight.
Yeah, pretty cute to make use of the early cloth armor as well that he helped jungle with. But you're right, on Wayless here, he's already got the cooldown boots, possibly moving in for a Murillo Nomicon, maybe the Zhonya's as well, depending on what he wants. Even a Death Cap if he feels really far ahead. But that CDR is quite high right now. We'll reach 40% relatively soon. I think with blue buff is already there as M3, yep. Still, again, looking for spots to farm, but there's no real empty lanes to move them into. Wayless now going to go in, pick up his blue buff, and should have enough CDR now.
See what LGD want to focus on as their next objective. They have all 3 outer turrets, because taking inner turrets that much more risky. They haven't moved their vision adequately up into the enemy base and have to respect the pick potential of Rengar. It's going to be the 5 pink wards and just having both wards for flanks and just aggressive wards before they're able to start committing to these inner turrets.
And Imp has also gone back and picked up his Phantom Dancer as well, so ready to go if he wants to keep split pushing, but in a fine spot to fight now as well. Candy still building in towards his Bloodthirster, not quite there, although does have a BF sword to join the Hurricane. And maybe this is the other issue with Kalista. Hurricane auto pushes your lane, so you don't really have safe places to farm once you start pushing the wave back.
It's a great point, and that's why I like Kalista with strong mid-game champions in the mid lane, because then at least you have implied pressure whenever that champion goes missing. But you know that Dade's not roaming and reacting to gank pressure. He can't afford to do that. Every time he's tried to react to skirmishes, as we saw very early, he's been dying to this Cho'Gath. And look at that, the respect flash from LoveCD. To be honest, 2 spells, he lost 2/3 of his health.
Yeah, if he got eaten there, I think Wayless just would have 3-shot him. So he's going to back away there. M3 will move in to defend the tier 2 turret here. Vayne kind of woefully short range, so going to be a bit of a tricky siege. But at this point, LGD, they advance their vision forward. They might just get Baron and siege that way.
I mean, the wave clear is decent between Dade and Candy, especially when Dade can get his low cooldown ultimate available and have the AoE to clear that wave to supplement the Hurricane bolts coming through from Kalista. There's a lot of strategic holes, unfortunately, and maybe that's just the reality of the very late pick Rise. It's not like it didn't seem like this was a pre-planned comp. They definitely had to really scratch the head when all the champions were not available. Didn't want to go towards the Victor. Wayless takes a lot of damage under turret, but M3, they just can't fight.
Yeah, Wayless has so much health as well. Is actually not too fast about tanking a couple of turret bolts. Condi diving in onto TBQ. Actually popped his ulti for that, but couldn't complete the initiation. Level 10 for the Rengar, so the cooldown even longer than he might like it to be. And Wayless, like you mentioned before, using all the CDR, just poking ruptures out under turrets and zoning people.
Yeah, Akon's level 11. They have to respect all the magic penetration, and AP is built up. Vayne finally able to split push. The reason why we didn't see Imp go down bottom lane earlier is they didn't have any ward coverage to support a 1-3-1 split push. They still don't, but you just have Janna next to him. Going to do just fine.
Ooh, Dade, they're going to flash in. The Rupture, though, does disengage POL with a great ulti as well, and almost gets eaten, but Candy getting chased in. TVQ finds the knockup. Dade going to go down there to Imp, and they're just tower diving full on now. Looper finally gets his ulti up and gets the kill, but it's not enough there as Imp gets another kill. Condi going to get chased down. This should be the triple there coming to Vayne, but Jarvan takes it instead. 5 kills there for LGD.
Wayless, we talked about the fact that he's going to have a large health pool, not other stats, but that's all you need when you're tanking turret. Actually had armor towards the zone, he's completed as well. And Imp, he turns it on. The Phantom Dancer shows how much single target damage he's doing, changes targets, and M3, they perish.
Yeah, so much mobility there, just moving under the turret. And you know, Wayless does a lot of damage. Not that tanky, but just had the raw health, like you mentioned, to at least soak damage. Did go down. That was the only kill that M3 got. Looper did get the shutdown, though, so he's now completed his Frozen Heart to accompany his Spirit Visage. But M3 need a lot more gold like that if they're going to keep themselves in this game, because they're 8,000 gold behind already.
It's two big pickups for Hecarim, but he doesn't have the Trinity Force. And it's really questionable to me to see a Hecarim go for the Ignite teleport summoners and not have either boots or mobility to go for the very big devastating charge burst trade or Trinity Force. There's just not a lot of burst coming out. What do you need the Ignite for to be combat ready? I mean, at the end of the day, he's just looking to be a frontline tank. The only CC he has at this point is the Onslaught of Shadows. So, look, he can do decent things in a fight, but he needs a lot of help. And at the moment, the Rengar is very far behind, doesn't have his Randuins complete yet. And Rise, the less said about Dade, the better. He's still at least 10 minutes away from farming up the third item. When he gets the Frozen Heart, gets towards 40% CDR to complement the eventual Seraph's Embrace, then Rise is combat ready. But will the game go another 10 minutes before a landslide advantage, already an 8k advantage for LGD? What will it be in those 10 minutes?
I'm not too sure, but it's looking a little dire here for M3 as both of LGD's big carries here, Wayless and Imp, have very impressive scores, both with 5 kills and 1 death. 5 assists there for Wayless, just the 4 there for Imp, who's been farming up some creeps in the meantime while that was happening. Mikhail's already done for POL. We can see how good Janna is at peeling off already. Dragon's back up, and LGD are just going to take it.
This will be their third dragon. This will be the fourth dragon complete. Of course, M3 taking the first one, getting greedy with the second, which started the snowball for LGD, and that's the third dragon down. The movement speed only going to be more helpful when closing down these members of M3.
Yeah, and Imp feels very comfortable right now. BF sword as well, so very aggressive, big damage build coming through early on. Just going to start split pushing. LGD will train towards the right-hand side to protect him, but don't really need to do too much. Dade going to clear some stuff out with his ultimate, but LGD all around this map might even look into a 1-3-1-esque looking push now.
You know, 5 minutes ago we mentioned that Vayne didn't look for the split push. You can see why now. There's so many blue wards on the map. It's so safe for Vayne to split push, and to be honest, Looper has to really check himself with the Blade of the Ruin King active. He still will be able to get away with the Onslaught of Shadows, but just needs to respect the Vayne. But LGD are grouping and clearing out all of M3's vision. They have so little vision outside their map. They can see that Baron isn't being started, but apart from that, not too much.
Yeah, and TVQ going to team up here with the Akon. POL and Wayless going to join the party, and another tier 2 turret going to fall. That's 5 turrets now for LGD to M3's 2. 14-6 in kills there as well, and LGD is getting more and more ahead in this game.
You can tell how far in front LGD is, because we almost always see Vayne split pushing, building up 3 or 4 items, then team fighting. But now, so confident are they, and with the Cho'Gath, Rumble, Jarvan combination, so much mid-game power, I can understand why. They're actually grouping around Imp, and they have to, we worry here, M3. There's so much Baron damage that Baron is a realistic objective from 20 minutes onwards. 6 minutes on from that 20-minute mark, they haven't started yet. They're lucky they have the ward down that they do, but Baron could go down, and it'll go down so fast to the damage from LGD.
Yeah, we don't even get to see it that much, but Cho'Gath being able to help take neutral objectives is another nice thing about it. And of course, Imp at this point just does silly damage to neutrals.
And between the W and the Blade of the Ruin King, going to be exploding the Baron. They're responding to the push, so the mini waves are pushing out for M3. Dade at the top. He's finished his Archangel stuff. I'll have a look to see how he's stacking the tier. Very good stacking. Of course, Rise uses his spells on cooldown, basically, so does get a lot of value out of the tiers. About 680 stacks, so we'll have the completed Archangels. Frozen Heart, one more 2,500 gold item. Rise is suddenly relevant, but until that point, he just does not want to opt into a fight.
No, and LGD have slowed down a little bit here. Seem to be waiting between dragons, which could be a bit dangerous, honestly, given that M3 are looking to just farm up and scale, but the pressure's starting to mount a little bit. They'll reward down here, take over the jungle, and they need to find a plan. I'm very surprised that LGD haven't just tried to brute force the Baron, but they're taking the game pretty deliberately at this point.
And it's interesting, as you mentioned, we just saw Rise pushing top. Doesn't have teleport, went for the Ignite Summoner spell, so not a lot of map pressure being exerted by M3. they're just going to be honestly relieved that they have a bit of time to farm. LGD, they want the Baron, but they haven't been able to get exclusive vision of the Baron pit just yet. So the result is 2, 3, 4 minutes of safe farming for M3. Will it make the difference? Maybe not. But at least it's pressure relieved from an M3 perspective.
Yeah, a little odd that LGD's pin quads are as low down on the bottom right-hand corner of the map as they are, though. Kind of surprised that they haven't moved that vision forward a bit. Maybe it's an item efficiency thing as Love City. We'll actually check the pin quad in the Baron. That's a good spot to have, and Baron will get angry as a result, but they should be able to start clearing out some more. Baron's very angry, though. I
feel like there should be 5 pink wards on the map, given the fact that they're 10,000 gold ahead, given the fact that they've been entrenched in the enemy jungle for so long. There's 1 extra pink ward in the inventory, 2 on the map, maybe 3 at this point. Should be 5 pink wards, should be going for the Baron because they have so much Baron damage. Forcing out the Rengar ultimate, which of course will be used to check whether the Baron's being started. And then, they have so many options. Bait it, do it. They have so many options there. But right now, just split pushing. It's been 5 minutes of freedom for M3.
And that's a much needed 5 minutes as well. Dade actually transforming the Seraph now as well. So a little bit tankier and a good amount of damage boosted up there as well. Imp, though, has finished his next major item. And I love this Vayne build. He's actually got a Bloodthirster third.
And I was going to say, I was so interested. Would it be the Infinity Edge or would it be the Bloodthirster? Of course, more damage coming through from the Infinity Edge, but so much risk as Wayless gets hooked. Don't know if that's the person you want to hook.
Bait's Gold being used as well. Acorn's actually joined as well. Condi so low there, but Dade going to come in. Decent damage coming in, but Wayless going to move back in. He gets hooked up though. The knockup will come in. There's a massive ulti there from TBQ and Imp flanking around the side. Looper though dives straight onto him. There's a lot of damage coming in. Dade might be able to get it, and Hecarim cleans out the kill. Dade still alive somehow. TBQ now going to get hooked out under the turret. Makes it into the base gate, but Wayless snipes and now moves forward. Insane damage from that Cho'Gath W, and Candy still cutting away. The Zombies pop fairly late. Candy though still alive. That pops around there. Triple kill for Wayless. Maybe going to make it 4. No, TBQ steals the quadra.
A very long fight. The MVP was the Mikhails coming through from PWL. It helped Cho'Gath live. There could have been a Renset potentially coming through after the first exit kill. It doesn't. We're going to see the inhibitor fall down. Dade, he had a chance to redeem himself, but the equalizer was on point. Just too tanky, unfortunately, LGD. You can see if there was a few hundred more gold, 1 big item completed on any of the M3 members, that fight would have been totally different.
Yeah, and they picked their spot pretty late to fight there, but pick it well once they do get there. Imp has a Ruby Crystal in his inventory. Also has already upgraded to the Fury enchantment.
Yeah, it might be the Banshee Veil as the pickup. But that's the most likely thing with the Ruby Crystal. It could, of course, be the Phage if he wants to go for the Trinity Force for a bit more burst in his build. Needs to respect Dade is the important thing. Dade is going to start pushing out damage. You can see he's working towards the Glacial Shroud, working towards a bit more cooldown reduction. But M3, they were just an item short, and you could see so many low members of LGD, but either better focus or more items were needed to win that fight for M3, because that was a great opportunity for them with all the aggressive turret diving.
Yeah, and it's reflected in the gold lead here. 14,000 gold or so up for LGD. Next Dragon coming up as well. PYL so confident in the gold that his team has that he's helping Vayne out a little bit more. That's a Zeke's Herald.
Yeah, the Zeke's Herald. That's a luxury pickup if there ever was one. It's such an expensive build. Between the 2 items, we're talking close to 6,000 gold between the Zeke's Herald and the Mikhail's Crucible. But, I mean, Imp had lifesteal before. Right now, he just has an embarrassment of lifesteal. So much lifesteal between those 3 items that he has, including the Mikhail's. The Dragon explodes to add a 6-minute timer onto the game. Last thing M3 want, because again, another 10 minutes, maybe they'll be looking good. But right now, the game's going to be over in 10 minutes.
Looks like it here, and LGD going to move in towards the Baron. Wayless kept his feast there if he does want to maybe try and eat that one up. Scuttlecrab dies almost immediately as both TBQ and PWL are using the upgraded sweepers to get the vision around the Baron. Pinkward's still there sitting in. They'll clean that out as well. Almost level 16 on Akon crucially as well. Wayless is actually already level 16, so massive damage coming through. And Rabadon Deathcap's done for this Cho'Gath. I have to say, Papa Smithy, I've been so impressed with how Wayless has played this Cho'Gath. Not just for the laning or the matchups he's been able to find, but he teamfights with his champion unbelievably well.
And we saw Vici using the Cho'Gath in a poke comp. We then saw King bring it out twice to 2 victories, and then Wayless team fighting with the Cho'Gath. The flexibility of the Cho'Gath and the safe laning is making it a very attractive pick, but for M3 fans, you have to start worrying about Dade's champion ball. If he has to resort to the mid-rise after no real big changes to usher it in as Baron explodes.
Yeah. Didn't even get eaten, by the way.
I don't know if it's going to get any better, but the equalizer is slowing down Condi.
Very nice equalizer there, but they can't quite chase in. TBQ thinks about it, but does get bowled. Very nice. And Imp, he's going in there. He's so fast moving through with the enchantment plus the Jana, and he just cleans out the first kill.
Condi tries to buy time for the rest of the 4 members of his team to back away. With the base broken, I think they might even look to brute force. No, they will take the measured approach. TBQ gets hooked.
Damage coming in. Dada gets knocked up. Wayless going in. Pops to Seraphs and still does plenty of damage. LGD going to break the base wide open now. Mid inhib already down. Bottom inhib should fall soon, and there's just so much damage. Wayless gets hooked there, moving in, but he's got so much help here. PYL taking some damage. Dada's popped his ulti, and LGD just rally off and take the inhibitor, and now the game.
It's very worrying when being hooked under double Nexus Tower. It's almost an initiation, but the fight's on.
Yeah, Imp's still here as well. TBQ pops his ulti. Imp tumbles into the Cataclysm, and he's just firing at will now in the safety of the Java and ulti. Wayless eats poor Condi again. Love CD. Gonna almost go down, but a well-timed Fate Skull keeps the stats a little safer now, but LGD end the game with 20,000 gold ahead and a lot of pep in their step.
And look, I made the comparison to Season 3 Worlds for the Rise pick. Unfortunately, it's a return to those scores. Dade looks a bit bemused, fixing the glasses, definitely doesn't want to have eye contact with his team or the fans, you'd have to think. 0-6-2. The Rise pick didn't offer anything.
I think he just didn't want to look at his screen and see his KDA, because like you mentioned, not a very glamorous one there for Dade. And the last minute Rise pick, it looked very rushed, it seemed like, but this has been the biggest thing. Dade's champion pool, always a question here on 5.4. We had a lot of players here that we thought we'd look at and what are they going to do? Dade had to be the biggest question.
And there were a lot of champions banned. There wasn't a big pick, a lot of champions to pick from. That's why we're excited. We're like, okay, it's going to be something different. But Rise, that's definitely an overreach in terms of champion pool. And you worry, because if Wayless sees an AP Cho'Gath ban, Ari, one of those other champions is going to get through, and Dade's life's not going to get any easier.
Yeah, and Dade has to change something. We'll see what it is after this quick break. Don't go too far. After this, we have Game 2 between LGD and M3.